Good morning, world. Starting to feel like I should change my clothes for these videos, but I start my day and end my day in this shit like every day almost. Like I have two of these hats, I have two of these robes. I just rotate. Being comfortable is important. Uh, so, person number 4. Uh, I haven't seen you in a long ass time, but every time I talk to you, I still feel like it's like been a day. So for psychoanalyzing you, I feel like that will be kind of difficult because I haven't seen you in such a long time, and these things are really kind of minute details most of the time. But I will kind of like do the overall structure, and then and think about the past a little more. That may not be relevant to your life now as is at all. But hey, we're gonna play around with it anyway and see where that goes, and maybe I'll hit something that you didn't notice or whatever, or hear or whatever conceptually it may be. Um, so I'm uncomfortable in this chair. We should move somewhere else. I think comfort is a good. You need to get comfortable to let your mind like just spew information. Okay, where am I going? Bed. All right, over your bed. Let's get in here and get relaxed. 9. You're a 9. 9 can get along with just about everybody. They seem to get along with just about everybody, right? On that surface, 9 is the most tranquil within themselves. You, in particular, are probably the chillest person I ever met. Perhaps because we get along, but I just think you're just chilling as fuck anyway. Um, so, so yeah, you get along with everybody. You're chilling as fuck. You don't necessarily feel a part of the group though, because you can get along with everybody. It's like that weird edge, right? Where it's like, oh, I get along with anybody, but then that makes you feel like you're not a part of anybody, like any group necessarily, a group. One individual, you may have a tendency to fuse with that person. You kind of become like them a little bit, right? And then that therefore allows you to get along, yeah. But that getting along sometimes can turn into resentment because you've actually changed yourself a bit to fuse with this person. So that can become resentful because you're actually extraining some part of yourself to be more like them, right? Versus in your natural state, you're more comfortable just chilling, relaxing, doing what things you do to rejuvenate, which is probably just chilling by yourself, playing some video games, like just relaxing, whatever relaxing is for you in this time period of your life. That's reading, watching a movie. Those things are fantastic, and you make others enjoy those things, which is good because if you got that impulse to be like, I need to do something, you'll be like, oh no, really, you don't have to do anything. Like it's great, you don't have to do shit, like we're good. So that's always something it can be a strength and a weakness at the same time. Like I can see the strength in it, being able to just be calm, because there's some of us with this anxiety, especially now, right? uh that we it won't shut up, right? And you're like, oh no, shut up. So which is cool. I dig that. Because you're willing to change yourself, sometimes you have a loss of like you don't know who you are anymore. Like you bonded with this person because you see everyone's perspective and you see value in everybody's perspective. So when you go about life, you might have like this curse of indecision. You're like, I talked to a fireman and he gave me this perspective on his life, and I'm like, that's awesome, I want to be a fireman. And then you see this other person like, oh, you started your own thing over here. Oh, I could see that. And then you're like, oh, over here. Oh, I could see that. Like, and then you have all these like 6, 10 options because you get along with everybody. Everybody kind of likes you, so they all give you a perspective, and you're like, those look pretty good. And you probably try a little bit in all of them, And then, but you're like, fuck, like, I'm not really anywhere further than I was however long ago. So, so that's something to take with a grain. Like, all these people's right way will not be your right way. You can take these things and combine them into something for yourself, which could be your right way. Um, so yeah, I just you gotta kind of flow with what works best for you. Um, so yeah, I kind of see nines as a really good, I don't want to say mediator, but I don't know. You're a seductive ass type. I'll give you all that. You're seductive as fuck. You have this pattern that I've noticed. Maybe not necessarily you, but I've been looking at nines a lot lately because I find you all over my life. Uh, I have like, I don't know how or why, but nines, I just, they're everywhere. Like, I see more nines than anybody else. Um, so, I forgot where I was going with that. So, nine, indecision, bonding, yeah. Your sin is sloth, but not necessarily in being lazy, but in a way of like passive aggressiveness. Like you don't want to deal with conflict. You don't like conflict. So so you won't communicate a lot of these things that are rubbing, you know. You just kind of bend and bend and bend until you're like, fuck this. Like, and then at that point you become reactionary, and you don't want to be reactionary. You want to try to keep that calm, cool demeanor that you normally have, but say what you're feeling here. What has gotten you rubbing? Because you're really good at taking these things that are kind of like a grate on you and just be like, no, they don't matter. Just throwing them out over that way. But they do matter. They are something. There's something in here, right? And you don't want to just like take that problem, put it in a space bag, and then suck all the emotion out of it until it's like this tiny, thin, crispy thing, and then you just tuck it away somewhere. Because when you do open that up, it's going to expand, and then it's gonna be a big ass thing right here in the middle of the room. Yeah, realize that sometimes things are bigger than you're allowing them to be. So every now and then dust that shit off, see what's in there, and work your way through it. Um, so that's how you're slothy. You'll see a conflict, and you may not necessarily do anything about it other than remove yourself for a time, and then you just come right back like nothing happened, which is actually the seductive part of you. Because it's funny, because it's like you're like, oh, nothing's wrong, something's wrong, and you might project it out, like, hey, you're doing this, this, and that, and then the other person's like, because you are watching as well, you are understanding people. Then no, you wouldn't be able to blend in like you do if you didn't understand people at some level, right? So when you do lash out, you do gripe on a thing, it's probably fucking accurate. So you're hitting striking a chord somewhere deep in a person, right? And then you might retreat for a second, and then you come back like nothing happened. So what you're subconsciously telling somebody is that you're fine. You're fine. I didn't do any, like, it wasn't me because I'm fine now. What it was you, which is insidious. Like seduction, it seems to be like this weird mix of pain and pleasure, right? You like Eros, the god of love. He shoots that arrow at you, creates a wound. You pull that arrow out. There's a wound now here, right? And the only thing that can fill this wound is somebody else, right? So when you wound someone and then come back and then say everything's okay, you're now being the person to heal this wound. Maybe you have something that they do not have, and that's why you're a seductive ass motherfucker. So I've noticed that about you nines, and I think you do it in a better way than most. Like, I think you're more like, you don't really even say that thing that fucks them up, but it's just your absence maybe is enough, like mental, emotional, you just kind of like click out. There's enough to kind of be like, for another person to think, what's wrong here? What did I do? Maybe, these kind of things. Um, so I guess that's something to kind of keep an eye on. And, and it may not necessarily be a bad thing, because I'm a person that actually has circumvented that pain thing. I don't want to inflict pain, so I'll instead of like lashing out and inflicting some type of pain and then soothing it, I'll circumvent that whole process. I will, instead of criticizing you or doing these, I just don't say those things, and then I'll just I'll grab you and I'll push you into the spotlight. I'll highlight all the good things about you. This is just what I would do like in person probably. And then I'll make you feel good about yourself. And then, and that's about it, right? So, because I like to be in the spotlight as well. So that's what I kind of try to do for others, but without making them feel like shit. But it's missing that key ingredient of void. We all are lacking something, and we're all seeking to fill that lack. So you're you're exemplifying a lack in somebody, a lack that they themselves may not totally understand. Like it's a subconscious thought, like I'm a prude, so subconsciously I'm thinking maybe I should go out and do more things. Maybe I ought to be more adventurous and spontaneous and whatever, right? So you call that person like a nun, or you're boring. And it's a subtle joke, right? But you're bringing the subconscious into conscious. It was there. She already thought that. You're bringing this forward. And I guess that's kind of partially why I'm doing this, right? I'm trying to learn from y'all, and I'm putting these things forward that I've seen, you know. So here's the pain. I am trying to access my shadow and really dig into y'all motherfuckers, because I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna seduce y'all, then I need to actually access this darker part that I see y'all doing, and I need to bring it to your face, so that yeah. And this seductive things I think are super interesting, because they're so anti what I would think a person would want. You know, I would think that person would want just stability, support, growth, help, mindset. Like, how can I help you become more? But people don't really like that. Like, they did this like study where they put electrodes on a human's brain. They allow them to touch any button that is associated with emotion or combinations of emotions, right? And so if you're freely able to press any emotion you like in your brain, you're gonna push the most pleasurable. And the most pleasurable emotion beyond sex, drugs, whatever, is slight anger and frustration. And I think that is the key component of seduction, of love, of romance, is slight anger and frustration. More so than sex. You can tell sex isn't that important if someone is willing to uh, withhold it. Man or woman, we're both willing to withhold our love. Why is that? Why do we care to want to withhold this? It's because we rather have some slight anger and frustration right now. Like, that is the precursor to pleasure. The anxiety, the lack of, is precursor to pleasure. So I'm like, oh, you're not, that's interesting. So this is really more or less me talking about you than me trying to learn from you.